Hello everyone. Welcome to Confessions Jury, where people put themselves on the spot, waiting for your judgment. Sit comfortably and listen carefully, as you're about to hear today's cases. You hold the hammer and you apply the law. Let us have your verdict down in the comments section. As always, don't forget to subscribe and like the video. Let's head on to our first case. Case 1. Am I the bad person for rolling my eyes at my ex's wife when she asked me for compassion? I, 33F, broke up with the father of my two children, 11M and 9M, 7 years ago. We weren't married or anything, but our breakup was amicable and we co-parented on good terms for a couple of years. Then he met his wife, and once I met her, things changed. It was clear she didn't like me or the fact that X and I could get along. When we met, she called me the kid's other mom, implying she was the mom, and she glared daggers in my direction when I told her I was the other mom, but just the mom. She would call them her boys, and she said she was a boy mom whenever she was speaking to me. She tried to push my ex back and ordered all communication about them go through her instead of him, and when I refused, she told me I didn't have the right. Once that fight happened, she started sending me photo updates whenever X and her had a day out with the boys, or if they did anything with them for a significant amount of time. She'd text me anywhere from 3 to 5 photos and say she had a great day with her husband and her children. I saved all of that because I didn't like her attitude toward me. When I tried talking to my ex about it, he told me she was trying really hard to be good to the boys, and I needed to accept it and help her take on an active second mom role, because they had trouble getting the boys bonded to her. I told him how she spoke to me wasn't acceptable, and he said it came from insecurity, and he felt like I was a big enough person to know that. While we were talking, she texted me saying I had no right to discuss her children with her husband. I showed X, and he told me it was just her being insecure. But this was the breakdown in our co-parenting relationship, because I didn't appreciate the fact I was supposed to let his wife walk all over me and push me out eventually, because it was clear she wanted that. She'd get into a snit anytime she wasn't given full parental access. Which means when she wasn't able to add her family and friends to the school pickup list, and she wasn't able to change which pediatrician they went to see. X never fought me too hard on that stuff, but she sure as hell tried to. She also hated that she couldn't take them out of state to visit her relatives whenever she wanted. She introduced herself as the kid's mom every single time we went to a PT conference or she showed up at a medical appointment for our youngest who has some health issues. We actually returned to court twice over this. X and her were told by the judge that she was not the mother of the children and she did not have the right to impersonate me when it came to school or medical settings. The judge also warned that the court would not take kindly to any alienation of the children. X's wife tried to claim I was engaging in it and that the proof was in the kids not calling her mom even though they were very young when she became their mom. The judge asked for proof and claimed that wasn't proof. The second time there was a documented incident of her saying she was the kid's real mom in front of them, and the judge restricted certain things she can do. She can't do drop-offs of the kids, and she can't show up to appointments or school meetings that required both parents. That decision pissed her off immensely, but the good thing is she contacts me far less now, and that works for me. I try to make something like co-parenting work with my ex, and I focus on the kids. But apparently X and her have been through some stuff. She found out she can't have biological children, and they were rejected for adoption. The boys have expressed that they don't like her, which I knew a little about because X requested permission for family therapy for them, which I consented to because we already had the boys in individual therapy. But therapy is not helping to foster a closer relationship. She came to me when they had the boys and info dumped all of this onto me at the front door to my house. I almost closed the door on her, which she noticed, but kept talking about her issues and then told me to have some compassion for her and at least hear her out and try to help since we're both the mothers of the boys. I rolled my eyes when she asked me for compassion. I didn't even try to hide it. And I had no sympathy for her. None. I can't say I'm upset that my kids don't like her, seeing as I think it would open up the avenue for her to try harder to push me out and would possibly open them up to being alienated against me. She got into another snit at the door and I told her to leave. She was insulting me, but I moved away from the door so I couldn't hear her. She followed up with 10 texts that night, and then my ex told me I owed his wife an apology for rolling my eyes at her. Now maybe I was wrong to roll my eyes at her like that. Maybe I could have been more mature. So I'll ask, am I the bad person? What do you guys think? Lay down your ruling in the comments section and let's move on to our next story. Case 2. Am I the bad person for being stubborn and refusing to move back home with my mom and telling her she chose her stepdaughter over her son, and these are the consequences? My dad died when I, 16 am, was 4, and for 3 years it was just me and my mom. Life was pretty good. We were sad Dad wasn't there, and I had some big emotions about not remembering enough about him, but I got therapy and it helped. Then my mom met James when I was 7. James was a single dad to Emma, who was 9 at the time. My mom and James fell in love and they moved in together, and Mom helped James with Emma, who had pretty bad mental health problems even back then. Emma wasn't easy to be around when Mom and James would date, and she'd have outbursts all the way back when we'd meet up at a diner for lunch or go to museums and stuff together. So by the time we all moved in together, I was pretty upset. It only got worse when we lived together. Some days Emma was fine, calm even, but other days she'd be saying things about hurting herself and others, and then there were the days she'd try to break a door down or smash a room up. There were a few times I told my mom I didn't like what was happening, and each time she'd tell me we were a family now and Emma was my sister and we needed to be there for her. When Emma was 13, she started taking drugs. Then she started drinking. Sometimes she acted less explosive when she was high or drunk, but once that wore off, she was worse. When she was 15, she freaked out one day, and even though she didn't drive it, she basically totaled her dad's car, and she broke the front door and 2 of the front windows. The police and an ambulance came, and she was removed from the house. CPS stepped in, and she was placed in a place to help her with her mental health. She stayed for a year. I was forced to visit twice a month with my mom or with James. If I asked to stay home, the answer was no, and she needed to see her family. She was released, but she wasn't sent to our house at first. She was placed with a therapy foster family. She'd come to visit, but even with all the help, she was still difficult to be around, and I hated those visits. Then she moved back into the house with us after 3 or 4 months with the foster family. In the background of all this, my paternal grandparents were fighting my mom over me. They tried to get custody 3 times, but were denied. They didn't feel like she was putting me first and instead put Emma first. I didn't get to see them because my mom would refuse to let us have contact, and she said they'd poison me against my family. But all the time with Emma and James living with us had done that anyway. I don't like them. I feel like they made my life worse and added nothing good. My mom put having them in her life over my safety and mental health. Emma still lives with them, but 6 months ago I called CPS after another incident and they removed me from the house. I can't say much about the incident, and there's an investigation happening into it and some other stuff is going on, but CPS and the judge agreed that I needed to get out of there. But the judge ordered my mom, and I have at least one 30-minute phone call a week. Every time my mom calls, she's trying to get me to move back in. She said I just need to tell my grandparents, and we don't need to make it official or anything. She tells me she loves and misses me. I got so tired of her saying the same thing over and over again that I told her she put Emma before me and I won't ever move back in. When she tried to say the whole thing about Emma and James being our family, I told her they were her family, but they were never mine, and I didn't care about them or want them in my life. I said they brought nothing good into my life. They made it worse, and losing Dad was already a pretty shitty start to mine. I told her losing her son is the consequence of choosing her husband and his daughter over her son. She called me too stubborn for my own good and asked me where my understanding for others had gone. And she ranted about Emma being sick and needing family and love and support. She was going on like that until the 30 minutes was up and I just ended the call. But she sent me some texts after it and they bothered me. Am I the bad person? You've sat down, you've listened. Now, it's time to state your ruling. What is it gonna be? Let us have it down in the comments section down below. Thank you for watching. Please like this video if you enjoyed it and subscribe for more cases like these. In life, we may run, but we can never hide from true justice. Stay safe, everyone.